This program is proudly brought to you by the Peel Dance Bar, corner of Peel and Wellington Streets, Collingwood.
Good evening. It's Monday night and it's blah blah blah. Tonight's program is a co-production between Lesbiana and Vent TV. The topic of the program is parenting. Tonight, sitting around me, I have various parents, and we have a couple of children of gay parents. And the first thing we'll be discussing is why become a parent. First person I'll ask, I'll direct this to Sue, who is the mother of Grace, who's sitting down here on Michelle's knee. Sue, why would you become a parent?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and I think it would have to be the hardest one of all to answer. And in fact, I don't like answering it, and Deb can probably tell you from her research, she's been asking lesbian parents the same sorts of questions. But and it's not the sort of question that we would ask straight women. Why do you have children?
But I think straight parents why they have children.
But I think that perhaps the more interesting question is why are so many lesbians having children right now in this particular period of time? And I think that lesbians are women, and that most women want to have children or like to have children, and that lesbians as a group have seen the opportunities and potential to have children, and as you know, there are now lesbians who had children 10, 15, 20 years ago, and the option, I suppose, is there for us now more and more visibly, I guess. And so for us, we could see that it was really possible, and I think we're part of a generation that are seeing the possibilities and deciding to kind of tap into that desire that we have as women and make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Now, Brett, your options aren't the same as a lesbian, so why would you decide to become a parent?
I think myself and my partner decided to become parents because we saw a lot of adolescents out there that were in desperate need of a stable environment where they could grow and be nurtured, and there was a lot of children out there that didn't have that opportunity, and we just thought having our relationship to a stage where we've been together, I think about 8 years, when we first decided that we could offer something to some kids that needed somewhere to stay where they didn't have that normal family environment that so many of us are so lucky to have at an early age, and don't realise that a lot of children don't have that opportunity.
Di, your situation's a little bit different again.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't come out until after you'd had children.
That's right, yeah.
Was you a conscious decision, or was it just going through the motions of getting married? And
I was pregnant, and then I got married, and then I had children, and that was it. That was a done thing in my day. In the early 70s, you just, if you became pregnant and you were straight, you got married. Or the alternative is that you had an abortion, which I couldn't do that anyway, but I got married, and I was married for about 6 years. And in that time, it wasn't a terrific marriage, but I think there was a lot of things going on as well as just not my marriage, it was being gay as well. Because I had an attraction to a girlfriend of mine, which I thought was a bit unusual. and I thought there is something wrong here. So anyway, a few years down the track, I sort of came out, but it took a fair while after I'd separated from my husband. So.
Sue mentioned your research there. What are your findings in regard to lesbians deciding to have children?
You mean, what do they say when I ask them why they want to have children? Well, I have to say I've sort of stopped asking that question because it seems to be quite, for a start, as Sue said, it's something that people feel a bit affronted by because no one particularly asks straight people why they want to have children. They just assume that they do and that that's okay. But I also think it's a really difficult question for people to answer because, well, I mean, any answer you could give like sort of sounds a bit sort of narcissistic, I suppose, like, you know, oh, I want to have children because I want to have children, you know. And it's often something that's quite difficult to explain, or it's just a feeling that you have. So, and as Sue said, I think, you know, a lot of lesbians will have the same sorts of desires that other women have to have children, and they don't necessarily find it easy to articulate what they are.
It's interesting in the playgroup that Michelle and I attend with Grace, there are some younger lesbians there who have babies, but the majority of us are 35 plus, and I think that says something about our biological clocks ticking away, and you know, we're rushing to get pregnant before it's too late, and that's very much about biology and you know, a really deep sense of desire to have children.
It has to be a really considered decision. Would you like to explain some of the process that you had to go through?
Yeah.
Like, you really had to have a strong desire to be a parent.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were thinking about and talking about it for 3 years before Grace was conceived, and one of the best things for us was the opportunity to go to monthly meetings of other lesbians who were considering having children, which is the Prospective Lesbian Parents Group, and that was a fantastic way of being able to think about and talk about the issues with other women in similar situations, as well as a great way to meet other women who were having children and who we've now formed long-term friendships with. But the process is definitely, these would have to be the most considered children on earth. The having to think through the issues about biological fathers and the role that they'll have in children's life, our child's life. There's a lot of legal issues. There's, you know, about how to tell family and friends, thinking about, you know, is this the right thing to do? Am I doing something that is really selfish? You know, like the media was saying about that Lisa Meldrum, you know, how selfish this is about your desire to have a child and not about the best interests of the child. I mean, we thought long and hard about what was in the best interests of our future children before we made the decision to have a child. Was she or he going to grow up being ridiculed, and, you know, were we setting a child up for a really difficult future? I mean, we thought really long and hard about those sorts of issues before we made the decision.
Okay, Brett, as a foster parent, when you approached the agency, what sort of background checks did you have to go through? Like, for you, becoming a parent probably wasn't easy either.
No, once we made the decision that we would look for a foster agency that would accept us as foster parents, we went through 2 fairly routine interviews where we firstly had 3 people come around to our house and just talk about why we wanted to become foster parents and also what we could offer and just the whole situation, our situation that they'd be living in, and because there's a lot of also issues relating to the children we were going to bring in and whether that would be an issue that we were gay parents, so the children we fostered were always had to be taken into consideration, but the process was basically the same for us in the agency we went to as most other parents would have had to go through.
How old are the children that you're fostering?
They're now 14 and 16.
And how long have you been fostering these particular children?
We've been fostering these children for 2.5 years, and 4.5 years we've been fostering all together. Yeah,
before that you had these long-term children, long-term, excuse me, you said you were doing it for 2 years prior to that. Were they temporary situations or something that just didn't work out?
We originally started off as just short-term and emergency foster parents, which there's all sort of categories that you can fill, so depending on your time and also your situation. And we started off doing that. Both of our first 2 foster children became more long-term. One young female stayed with us for 2 years, and another male for 8 months, which were originally 3-month placements. That just because they were quite successful, they just kept going on.
And do you get any assistance from the foster care agency?
We do get quite a lot of assistance. We have workers that help us with issues, which I suppose in some regards we're a bit luckier than other parents because we've got people we can talk to when things happen. Basically, we sort of remain a family and just get them when we need them.
So you've had some experience at fostering as well before.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, I did regular respite, which is a little different. It was once a month for a weekend. I had a boy, I had only ever had one child from the age of 5 to 13. Foster care withdrew at around the 8 or 9 years, when he was 8 or 9 years old, and the arrangement continued between his mother and myself, which was absolutely fantastic. In fact, we saw him last weekend. He's now 15 and about that much taller than me, big guy. The agency that I was registered with, I was single at the time. I was open to them about being lesbian. Their policy was kind of at that stage, if you were in a relationship with another woman who was living with you who was also having a parenting role, then that would be an issue for them, and suggested that I just be a bit silent about that part of my life if that did happen. There seemed to be, with that particular agency, a bit of a split between what the staff thought and what the policy of the agency was. A lot of foster care agencies are run by or have in the background a religious organisation, so that can influence their policy about gay and lesbians foster parenting. But I know there is an agency at the moment who's recruiting gay and lesbian parents, Share Care, in the city of Yarra.
That's a really change of attitude, that actual foster care agencies are looking at gays as being parents, gays and lesbians, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I found fostering a really rewarding, enriching experience. It was one of the... It was something about the sort of things you were talking about before, about being able to provide this environment for children, but also getting a lot out of it myself.
I'll have to interrupt you there, Sue. We're heading for a sponsorship break, and I'll just remind you you're watching Blah Blah Blah, and the topic of tonight's discussion is parenting. Welcome back to Blah Blah Blah, and we're discussing rainbow families, basically about parenting. We'll move on now to discuss what attitudes people experience in regards to being gay or lesbian parents. Di, I might start with you here. How did you find women and lesbian community in general responded to you as a mother with children?
We're talking about probably 20 years ago, so it's a bit different then to now. I was more like in the closet then, not so much now, but in those days it was very different, especially because I had 2 children. Also my partner at the time, very closeted for certain reasons. So, comparing today to then is very different. And also, like, as far as getting custody of children in those days, it was very different. I had to go to court with the children, and the reason why they would have been taken off me was because I was gay. And it's a pretty scary thing when you can't understand why someone would take your children off you because of your sexual preferences. And just before I went to court, they changed the solicitors on me, and she was obviously homophobic. You know, it was a horrendous experience. Also, they gave me it's a 6-page folder on why lesbian couples lose their babies. Or children. And the reasons being why you would lose, or why you would keep your children, have custody of them, would be because your husband was either an alcoholic, a drug addict, and there was all these revolting things that were down, that why I would gain custody of my children. It had nothing to do with me being a fit parent. So, you know, it's very different now to then.
So to get pregnant in the first place, you relied heavily on medical services. What sort of obstacles would you have come across?
Well, I mean, the most significant one is that lesbians don't have access to donor artificial insemination, donor sperm, IVF, those sorts of programs anywhere in Victoria. I mean, that's a very significant barrier. I remember the first time we actually went to Sydney to check out Sydney clinics and to think about that as an option. And I remember the first time I went to my local GP to get a referral, and her jaw just dropped open, and she couldn't believe that, you know, we were actually considering doing this, and was horrified that lesbians were going to have children and all that sort of thing. Obviously, I didn't go back there again. I found the Carlton Clinic, which, I mean, is not to be underestimated. It's a fantastic service in terms of being familiar with gay and lesbian health issues, and to be able to go and speak to doctors and that sort of thing, and be understood and accepted is fantastic. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the medical stuff. We really did go to Albury for a short period of time, and so that meant relying on seeing a gynaecologist in Melbourne and then travelling up to a clinic interstate. I have to say that we were really, really supported by John McBain, who has been in the press a lot around these sorts of issues, and to us he's just an angel. He's a fantastic advocate for lesbian parents and lesbian families.
I think too there was some local research done not so long ago that was focused on lesbians' experience of pregnancy and childbirth, and the researcher found that mostly women had very positive experiences to support of their time in hospitals and through the birthing process. So, I mean, while there are a lot of bad stories around, there's also some good ones.
Yeah, I'm coming from being straight to gay. There are a lot of women like myself out there. My partner, she's only been out for about, I think, 6 years, maybe 7, but she has three children, and I've got 2, and I've got 2 granddaughters. And, you know, your experiences are a bit different to what we went through and still go through, and there's so many people like ourselves, and this is being straight then gay, that are like us, and sort of we're just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many people like myself that won't come out and say, yes, I'm gay, mainly because of their children, because of the flack they get. I remember when Carly and my other daughter, they were young, I tried very hard to keep it quiet because of what they would have gone through at school. Carly was very heavily into basketball. She played state basketball, and I knew that if someone had said something about me on court, she would have jumped on them and made it very difficult for her to play basketball, so to speak. But you know, that it's very hard for your children until I suppose it's
not
different.
Not so much now, because I think it's more accepted now. Whereas 20 years ago it wasn't, you know, and I kept it quiet because kids can be horrible, and I was dealing with it myself at 13, 14, and going through puberty and dealing with my mum being a homosexual. So I kept it quiet myself because it just made it easier for me, basically, so kids wouldn't, say, oh my God, look at her, she's got two heads, all that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was easier.
I played softball about 6 years ago, and there were two teams, and I was in the bottom team, of course, and I was the eldest one there. But I was sort of getting out and about, meeting people and that. And I remember after softball we go to this hotel in St Kilda, and we all met there, and my girlfriend was going to meet me later on. And what happened was, when I went to the bar, one of Carly's girlfriend's brothers was serving behind the bar. And for all these years I'd been hiding, so I thought that I was gay. And he said, oh, hi, Diane. I'm thinking, oh my God, he'll know, because, all the girls are there and their girlfriends. And he said, oh, how's things? And I said, fine. And he said, which one's your girlfriend? Just out of the blue like that. And I just went, And he said, oh, we've all known for years. Mum and Dad knew when Carly was in basketball. And they didn't give me any grief about it. They just respected that I was like that and I wasn't saying anything about it, and that was it.
Now, Sue, you get a lot of support from your playgroup that you go to. Do you have any support from, your, I suppose, own community?
I think a lot of our friends have been very supportive, and when we want the odd night out or we've got other things to go to, we do get quite a lot of help from friends, and also our families have been fairly supportive as well. So I think we get probably more of our support through our friends, and then a little bit probably just back up from our families as well, but also we have the agency too.
You've had experience where, was it a recent party here, that you couldn't take the prams into a certain area, and there's also at women's only venues, not venues, particularly Les Fest. There's been talk about not allowing male children into certain functions. What do you think about this?
That actually quite upsets me, especially like the fair that was on here that was, was supposed to be for the whole community, and our children are part of that community as well, so that was quite upsetting to come here and find that they weren't welcome. And the issue with the Les Fest and boy children, the whole playgroup was just outraged by it, especially their response with it, you chose to have a boy child sort of thing.
You chose, the argument put forward by the organising collective of Les Fest was, because we wrote to them and rang them and complained, the issue was that they wouldn't provide childcare for male children, which meant effectively that women who had male children were excluded. And their argument was, you chose to have children, you chose to have a boy child, and therefore you pay the consequences of that, which as parents we're outraged by that. On behalf of families that have boy children.
You'd think that by changing the attitudes and not excluding the children, it's a way to re-educate a generation into being more accepting.
Yeah, there was, earlier this year there was something in one of the, I don't know if it's Ben News or the other one, about someone wrote into the editor saying gays and lesbians shouldn't have children, that there was so many people on the earth, and gays were there to reduce, to stop the population from getting any higher. We shouldn't, we're made this way so that we shouldn't have children, and like there's some sort of defect policy or something. And I was going to write a response and didn't get around to it, and so I watched the pages to see who was going to respond to this, and absolutely no one did. And to me it says one of two things: either no one in the gay and lesbian community cares about family issues, or no one was prepared to give that sort of a comment any worth and respond to that. And I'm really not sure. I still think there's a lot of ambivalence in the community generally about gays and lesbians having children.
Sam, quickly, you're the son of a lesbian. Did you experience your mother or yourself being excluded from events because you had a male child?
Not actual events, but we were at a meeting up at some farmhouse, and they were talking about a women's area or a women's world or something like that, a big place, and they were talking about should male children be allowed there, and I was like, how could they not? Like, you know, I grew up a part of the gay and lesbian community, even though I'm straight, and it just infuriated me actually. I was about 12 at the time or something, but I knew where I stood.
Okay, it's time for another sponsorship break. We're here on Blah Blah Blah, and we're discussing lesbian and gay parenting. If you want to read more about this topic, I suggest you buy June Lesbiana, which is out now. Welcome back to Blah Blah Blah. This is the final segment of our show on parenting. I'll begin this segment with a little poem. It's by children in grades 3 to 6, and it goes, "We are the children of the rainbow, we like the way we are. We don't care what you say, so la-di-da-di-da." I thought it was wonderful. Viv Ray and Robin Gregory used that poem to open their report on rainbow children being raised by lesbian or gay parents. This is our school and family and friends. Now, Sam and Carly, I'd like to ask you some of your experiences going through school and what sort of attitudes you experienced from other children and also teachers.
Okay. I didn't have any problems with teachers. They were all fairly understanding towards, you know, my mum being gay. That wasn't, and I didn't have any problems with teachers at all. And as far as students were concerned, if I was haggled at all, well, I didn't pay much attention to it because it's just a lack of understanding on, you know, their behalf and what they perceived to be, you know, normal. So, I didn't pay much attention to it, and no, I didn't have many problems really. Yeah.
Sam, and what are your experiences?
Well, in primary school, had one kid say that his parents wouldn't let me come around because my mother's gay, and I was like, I don't get it. I don't know, because my mum came out when I was 3, so for as long as I can remember, it's always, you know, my mum and her female partner. Never known any different. But in high school, things changed. Meeting new friends, I had to decide if I was going to tell them straight out or if I was going to hide it from them, and if they were going to find out later. I decided to tell them straight out, and I suppose that made it easier. Somehow.
Did you broadcast it? Like, were you selective with who you told?
Well, no, I wasn't really selective.
Yeah.
But if somebody, you know,
Yeah.
was, you know, gonna find out anyway, I'd tell them.
Yeah. And just sorry, I'm touching on that. Are there other kids in your school when you're in high school? Did they have gay kids? Gay mothers or parents or anything like that? Were you ousted? Like, did you feel that you were singled out?
I was singled out, but because I'd always known it, I thought.
Yeah. So you felt like you were the only one who sort of there wasn't any other students who had gay parents.
No,
so.
I did actually hear of someone having a gay mother, but I never actually met them at the school. But in a way, it made me feel special. That I was a bit different from everyone else, and I suppose because growing up through puberty, you want to get noticed. I use that as a way of doing it. But with teachers, there was one day where I was telling a friend that I was saying that my mother's gay or my mother's a dyke, and the teacher goes, "Sam, your mother wouldn't like it if you said that about her." And I went, no, she actually is. And she went, "Oh, okay." Alright. But yeah, most of the teachers were fine. They met my mum and yeah, it was all good.
Sue, you're going a little bit towards trying to overcome Grace experiencing some problems by attending a playgroup where it's all lesbian mothers. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's really important to us, that we get together on a weekly basis like any other playgroup. There's actually a couple around Melbourne, 2 meet in Fairfield, and there's some that meet southern suburbs as well. And that's a great place for us as parents to meet and talk about, just regular mum stuff like, gee, she got a tooth this week, and have someone else who's going to be, excited about that with us. But it's also great for us that Grace is going to grow up having friends in the same sort of family situation. So, I'm really pleased that there's the playgroups around.
Deb, you're starting some research into gay families. Do you like to speak a little bit?
Yeah, it's a project that is funded by the Department of Human Services in Victoria, and it's being run by the Department of General Practice at Melbourne University in conjunction with Bouverie Family Therapy Centre, the Bouverie Centre I think it's called properly, and also the Australian Institute for Family Studies. And it's a little bit ambitious in that we're hoping to get responses from lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex parents. So that should be coming out. It's a questionnaire, but it also gives participants the opportunity to write about the strengths of their family, as well as lots of tick box questions about things like, how they've planned their families, who they consider to be the parents of their children. We're also targeting people who have children from previous heterosexual relationships, as well as people who are planning parenthood within their lesbian or gay relationship. So, I think there's a final section, that's right, that's about health risks that might be associated with alternative insemination practices.
And if people are interested in answering or taking part in this survey, how can they get hold of the questionnaire?
Well, the questionnaire will be distributed by us at the Department of General Practice at Melbourne University. So by contacting Dr. Ruth McNair at the Department of General Practice at the University of Melbourne. That's the best way, but we'll certainly be publicising it quite well once we've just finalised and finished with the piloting process.
Information how to get this questionnaire